Welcome to the Right Academy. I'm Matthew R. Miller. We're concluding our little mini-series about conjunctions, about how to join sentences together with this video, and we'll be talking today about conjunctive adverbs. Now, a brief recap. Remember, a complete sentence must have a subject, that subject's verb, and it must express a complete thought. An independent clause is basically a complete sentence. It can stand alone. Dependent clause cannot stand alone. It's not a complete sentence. It lacks subject or its verb or a complete thought. Now, why do we join sentences together? Why not just have sentence period, sentence period? Because that's choppy, boring writing. Frankly, it's bad writing. There's nothing wrong with it grammatically. You should use some sentences in periods, sure. But if you vary your sentences, if you change them up as you write to fit the scene, to fit the plot, to fit a character, or just to make it more interesting, it's going to elevate your writing. So, we talked about coordinating conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions, and semicolons. If you're not familiar, you can go watch those videos. They're right there on the channel, right below this one. And today we're talking about conjunctive adverbs, perhaps the most elegant way to join sentences together. A conjunctive adverb is an adverb, but don't worry about why that's the case. It's kind of strange to think about these as adverbs, but technically they are. Okay, so let me first give you some examples of conjunctive adverbs. Now, remember I said subordinating conjunctions. There's so many in English that I have no idea how many there are, hundreds perhaps. Well, it's kind of the same with conjunctive adverbs, probably a few less, but there are so many that I don't know if there's an official list, dozens, 100, I don't know. And so I don't have a good answer for you there. If you find a definitive list, then please post it in the comments. I would like to know. Let's show some examples of conjunctive adverbs. Okay, words that can show an addition to something. Again, also, besides, finally, further, furthermore, moreover. To show a contrast or to kind of change the idea in the sentence. Anyway, however, instead, nevertheless, otherwise, nonetheless. Sounds very, very fancy, right? To show time or passing of time, meanwhile, next, then, now, thereafter. To show result, accordingly, consequently, therefore, hence, thus, incidentally. To show a specific example of something, namely, specifically. To compare things, likewise, similarly. To kind of make your point stronger, indeed, in fact. To go back to the point you were making after kind of agreeing to its opposite, if that makes sense, still, nevertheless, to kind of agree on a main point, certainly, undoubtedly, and there's so many others, okay? There's just this is the kind of thing where you have to just kind of get familiar with them, and the best way to do this is to read a lot. I was a very lonely child, and I read a lot, and I learned what conjunctive adverbs were by reading. I didn't know the name of them. I just saw how they were used, and I got a feel for it. And if you read a lot, you will absolutely gain that. But coming from a grammatical approach, just Google list of conjunctive adverbs. Look at them and just kind of learn how to use them. You can't memorize them all, but learn how to use them. So here is how we do this. Okay. The basic structure. Independent clause 1, semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, independent clause 2. Let's look at some examples. First, I'm not going to his house. Again, he's my worst enemy. Okay, so I'm not going to his house, semicolon. Again, comma, he's my worst enemy. Another example, my enemy invited me to his party. However, I wanted to make amends, so I went. Now, you know I write horror, so let me think of some horror examples off the top of my head. How about this? We use the word meanwhile. Sally lay in bed sleeping peacefully. Meanwhile, the monster in her closet crept out. Okay, so Sally lay in bed sleeping peacefully, semicolon. Meanwhile, comma, the monster in her closet crept out. I normally would never go into a haunted house. Nevertheless, my girlfriend wanted me to go, so I went anyway. Okay? So this is how they work, conjunctive adverbs. They tend to make writing seem elegant, advanced, elevated. But you have to choose them carefully because just like coordinating conjunctions and just like subordinating conjunctions, each conjunctive adverb has a slight shade of meaning different from the others. So let me give you an example of how not to use them. It's so hot outside today. Likewise, I'm freezing. Okay, so likewise shows comparison or agreement, but hot and freezing are opposites, so you've chosen the wrong one. So you might say something like this. It's so hot outside today. Still, I'm freezing. In other words, acknowledging it's hot, but for some reason I'm cold. Maybe I'm sick, getting the flu, whatever, okay? Another example, do not invite a vampire into your house. Certainly, it's going to end badly. Okay, so you see how these work. And one thing that you need to be careful of in conjunctive adverbs, some of them sound kind of stuffy or a little bit old-fashioned or maybe like a little bit higher level English, and that's fine if it calls for it. But for example, nonetheless and nevertheless, these are kind of, I don't know a better word to say, fancy sounding words, right? So if you're writing, say, a fight scene and there's two street gangs, like take The Outsiders, that novel, and they're rough and tumble and they're poor and they use colloquial language and they're having a gang fight, you don't want to use the word nevertheless. It doesn't fit, right? But if you have two, let's say, I don't know, two Oxford professors talking to one another, two characters, it might be more appropriate to use something like nevertheless. So be aware not only that each conjunctive adverb has a different shade of meaning than the others, but also it gives the reader a feel of a certain level of language, okay? It's not to say the higher levels are better necessarily. It's just that each thing fits its situation the best. Choose one that fits the situation, the context, the characters. One of my, for example, in my Gravedigger series of books, horror comedy books, one of my characters, the main character, in fact, Paul, is a punk rocker. He is kind of brass. He's kind of, grew up not very rich. He's a good person. He has a good heart, but he kind of comes across as, he wears spikes and he's kind of offensive and that kind of. He would not use the word nevertheless. Paul would never do that. So if I use nevertheless in one of Paul's dialogues, it's a problem. And again, why? Because the reader's going to spot it and it's going to jar them, pull them out of that scene. They're going to say, wow, that's not Paul. And you're going to have an inconsistent character. So you have to think about all these things as you choose how to join sentences together. So again, you can always join two sentences together by replacing the period with a semicolon. That's one. 2, you can use coordinating conjunctions. 3, you can use subordinating conjunctions. And then 4, as we saw today, you can use conjunctive adverbs. Don't confuse conjunctive adverbs with subordinating conjunctions. They're a little bit similar. The coordinating conjunctions are short, like and, for, nor. They're 2 or 3 letter words. Easy to see they're in their own category. What's the difference, for example, between while and meanwhile? Very similar, but while is a subordinating conjunction. Meanwhile is a conjunctive adverb. So if you're not sure, just look it up. Google it. Is this word a conjunctive adverb or a subordinating conjunction? Learn to use these. Practice using them. Read a lot. You'll see how they're used the right way, and it'll become kind of a part of your own style eventually. I really hope that helps. So join your sentences together when you can, but change it up here and there. Some short, some long, some more elegant, some simpler, and base it on the context, the plot, the characters. Hope you can see that there's a lot to writing a story, isn't there? But you can learn how to do it. It's a skill, and you can become better and better. Everyone's learning. The greatest writer in the world is still learning how to write, whoever that may be. So keep at it. And please, I want to remind you once again that the information you're getting here on the Write Academy is a university-level writing course for free. Like I've said, I used to teach writing at the university, and this is the same kind of stuff I taught the students. So take advantage of it. Tell your friends. Please like and subscribe. Subscribing is free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't burden you in any way. So it helps the channel a lot. It helps the message to get out there. Also, please comment, because comments really also help the channel, and I'd love to hear from you. Right now, the channel's small, so if you make a comment, a suggestion, a recommendation, I'll probably do a video on it, because right now, there's not a lot of them. So thanks for watching, and we'll pick up next time with another topic. I'm Matthew R. Miller, and you're watching the Write Academy.